John Murphy at Murtech.com with your daily news update. Okay, here we are, Christmas Eve, December the 24th in the year of our Lord 2025, and I've got a lot of great information for you. I hope you like the way I've decorated my site for Christmas, the nativity scene. I thought that was nice to share with you. But let's go ahead and click over here, Murtech on Rumble. This is my Rumble channel, and this is the video that we're going to be reviewing tonight. Episode 1786. It says upcoming, but as you know, you are actually watching it. So let's jump into here. Let me close out the live chat, slide down here and click the Show More button and expand out the description box. Okay, we have information from Bannons War Room, Devory Darkins, Dr. Steve Turley, and Wendy Bell. But before we get into that, I do have some shout-outs to give. Let's see here. Grace Simpkins just started following my channel. Say Yetter just started following my channel. So thank you very much, folks, for following my channel. I hope you're tuned in, and I hope you enjoy the content. I sincerely appreciate you following my channel. Thank you very much. Debbiebs reposted my episode 1785. Cottonball31 commented on my daily news wrap-up. Fisher C45 commented on my episode 1784. Debbiebs, Cottonball31, and Susan080 commented on my episode 1785. Uncloudy commented on my episode 1786. This one, he's already put a comment in there. Debbiebs commented on my extra 570D. Debbiebs commented on my extra 570A. Bong Time and Debbiebs commented on my extra 570C. So thank you very much, folks, for your comments. I enjoy reading your feedback, and I definitely appreciate your support. So let me give this a thumbs up. Boom. There we go. And speaking of uncloudy, Merry Christmas and blessings to all the intelligent and awesome people who stay informed watching Murtech updates. So thank you very much, Uncloudy, for that shout out. I appreciate that. And I have some more comments of the day from Debbiebs. I love getting your information, and I appreciate that you do it every single day without fail. Thank you. Enjoy your holiday festivities. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to you, Debbiebs. Okay, let's jump back here. And we have another comment from Fisher C45. Thanks, Mur, for your compilations. Thank you. Stay MAGA, vote red. Absolutely. Sorry I couldn't get that out. Okay, and also from Cottonball31. Being a resident of Minnesota, not in the city part of the cows and rocks area, as Walz calls it, I am praying the chickens are coming home to roost for Walz and all his cronies. It is time for accountability. We haven't forgotten the George Floyd hoax. That's good. Also, where did all the surplus money go? That's a good question. Besides the other fraud. Yep, absolutely, Cottonball. I thought that was worth giving you a shout out on that. Okay. There we go. I didn't share that page. Here's the comment from Cottonball. The link is in the description box below. Okay, let's go ahead and get into this. Bannons War Room. The new GDP report details real private sector growth, consumer spending, and absolutely booming right now. Is absolutely booming right now. Okay, let's check this out.
EJ and Tony, you're joining us. I know it's a quick hit, but you were up this morning beautifully because they're trying to say, oh, it was government spending. It's all this 4.3% doesn't show that Trump's on the right track, everything. But you rebut that. What's the rebuttal, sir? This is real growth?
Oh, Steve, 100%. Look at, for example, federal government purchases in this report. That's not going up this year. It's going down at an annualized rate of over 2% reduction. That's fabulous news. Compare that to the 4 years under Biden. That category of GDP was growing at over 2%. So the idea that somehow this is all government, no, that's what we had under Biden. This is real private sector growth. Consumer spending is absolutely booming right now. And if we look at a lot of the details of this report, Steve, it points to huge increases in productivity. My guess is that has to do with people starting to use AI in their jobs and becoming more productive, getting more work done. But whatever the case, it's definitely a solid number all around. And I know some folks have tried to make hay over the fact that the investment number was essentially flat. It was basically zero for the quarter. But I think there's two reasons for that. Number one, businesses have been drawing down inventory because they overstocked at the beginning of the year out of panic, and now they're having to draw down those inventories. But number two, you're waiting on next year where I think you're going to see a big investment boom because of the tax bill. And so people are waiting on essentially not just some, but all of the provisions to finally kick in. And that's when I think you're really going to see investment take off, which, by the way, is exactly what happened during the first Trump administration.
Sure.
They got that tax bill done the first go around, and then you saw an investment boom, which led to a hiring boom and a real wages boom. So all the dials are really lining up here, Steve. Even when we look at international trade, we're importing less and we're exporting more. Production is up. That's a good sign.
Are you concerned? Two things quickly, because you're a labor economist. Number one, I want to ask you about the overall numbers, and are they right? Because they're saying, hey, since he doesn't have a Bureau of Labor Statistics, these numbers are all half-cocked. The AI and the productivity is one of the reasons maybe wages are not rising as much as we want, is that you're starting to see the beginning of AI, quote unquote, as a productivity tool, but taking out human labor. Are you concerned about that?
Not at the moment, Steve. You're certainly going to have some jobs that are eliminated by AI, but you also have a lot of jobs that AI is being used to allow people to be much more productive. And in those cases, you're actually seeing faster than normal wage growth. And sure enough, what we've seen so far this year has been average earnings growth outpacing inflation. And that's why people's paychecks are not only getting bigger, but on average, you can actually buy more with those paychecks. And so it's absolutely true. Some jobs will get eliminated by AI. That's true with every single technology. But at the same time, it's creating other jobs and it's making other workers more productive, which again is a good sign overall.
You were too MAGA for the Republican establishment to have as head of Bureau of Labor Statistics, although you told us for years what the problem was. You're the guy who identified it years ago. That's the problem. Now they're all complaining, hey, you can't trust any Trump numbers because there's no real guys there. Can you give us a minute on refuting that? Because they're saying, oh, you can't believe any of these numbers because it's coming from Trump. Your thoughts, sir?
Well, Steve, the people complaining about that had no problem endorsing the numbers, which, by the way, the methodologies are all the same. Nothing's changed, right? No one's actually gone in and cleaned house. So if you were okay with the numbers under Biden and we're going to use the exact same methodologies under Trump, why are you all of a sudden not okay with them? That makes absolutely no sense. The big complaint that so many economists had under Biden was not even necessarily the methodology, but the fact that a lot of the numbers we were seeing, like GDP, like the jobs numbers, they were getting artificially increased, if you will, by government hiring and by government spending. And so you weren't actually looking at real growth in the productive private sector. You were looking at, again, just government growth, the government getting bigger, which does not mean more products and services for people to buy. It just means more paperwork. It means more busy work, essentially. It means more expenditures without actually increasing output at all. Today, we're seeing exactly the opposite. So the complaint that people have really has nothing to do with any kind of empirical analysis. It seems to be a purely political attack.
EJ, where do people go on your social media feed to get all this? You're doing brilliant analysis and putting up the EJ charts we love. Where'd they go?
Best place to find me is on X. The handle there is @RealEJAntoni.
Tuesday, December 23rd. And it seems every single week so far since the fraud was exposed in the state of Minnesota that we have new updates. And this one was kind of stunning, if you ask me, because it seems that over 100 mayors out of this state has not only wrote a letter, but they're voicing their opposition to the governor and this amount of fraud, because we know once you're committing fraud in these social services that are supposed to be helping your constituents, and we know how Democrats think, they want to save everyone, but I don't know how you're going to do that if you're allowing people to defraud the system. Well, they're coming out and they're speaking on that, and they're letting their voices be heard that they don't like what is going on here. So bottom line to it all, as we get into this story today, is much more corruption and fraud updates. And just on the political front of all of this, just so we're clear, this is why, again, local elections matter. Okay, I say it a lot because once you have these local leaders, they are coming together and they are opposing the governor. You can't ignore that. All right, they're going to have to obviously do something about it. And we know at this point, not only are they facing pressure from now the mayors in the state of Minnesota, particularly Tim Walz, but now he's under investigation by the Oversight Committee. We know that on a federal level, as far as the DOJ is concerned, they're continuing to investigate all fraud in that state. And so it's just, what is the proper term? It is an investigations up the wazoo, essentially is what I would say. Okay, so and we don't have a comment from the governor, but we do have some delusional reactions, of course. And if you guys are new here, this is all about common sense commentary for these uncommon times. I was asked the question repeatedly when I went to AmFest last week. A lot of people actually never met me, or some people who were creators and big names actually they've seen my show or didn't see my show at times. And anyways, it was always the same question. What is your show about exactly? And I would tell people, I say, hey, listen, my show is all about focusing on the issues that actually impact everyday Americans, the average American walking down the street who wants to be politically aware, but they have a life to live, okay? They have bills to pay. That's why we focus on stories for them, because what happens, as you guys have seen, a lot of the stories, especially over the past month, has not been about that. It's just been about how I feel about another person, why I don't like what they said, why I don't like what they believe, blase, 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 okay? Especially on the right. And I'm a firm believer in results. And so if we're talking about the issues that affect you and your family and your colleagues and your coworkers and the people within your own community, my hope here is that not only would it give you some type of moral clarity, but it would allow you to have the confidence you need to step up and voice how you feel about things happening in your own city or your own state. And that actually matters, okay? Because if you don't say anything, if nobody says anything, they won't change, okay? Especially at the local level. So these stories are huge, and that's why that's why mainstream media doesn't talk about it often, because again, it's all about narratives at that level. Well, our show is more about the issues, the results, and especially when we're talking about what 77 million people voted for, when you're talking about America First principles. I would argue this particular story today is all about that. We should be putting the American people first, especially when you're talking about government programs that are funded by taxpayers. And when we have people coming into this country from other communities, I don't care what skin color they are, what religion they are, when they are defrauding that very system, not only should they be called out, but they should be held accountable to the highest standard. That's how I feel about this entire Somalia story. And the crazy thing about it all, guys, we can hold these people in the Somalia community accountable all we want, but the people who really should be held accountable is the governor himself. People should be demanding his resignation like yesterday, because all of this is happening under his leadership, okay? It's interesting. They're ready to impeach the president over hearsay and what they think is happening, not what actually has happened. But they have nothing to say about the governor of Minnesota. I just find it interesting. I mean, think about what's happened under his watch. Okay, you had the state with it was ranked number 2 on the largest negative net migration, meaning people left the state in crazy numbers. 2, it was another state leading in these crazy sanctuary city policies, handing out driver's license to illegal aliens, then also enabling the sick behavior with this whole transgender ideology. Okay, that's a whole nother thing. Putting tampons in these restrooms. They don't even call them boys or girls restrooms anymore, obviously. And then you got taxes that are insane for businesses. All right. And then you have all of this fraud. And then you had, let's not forget, I hope they're resting in peace in heaven, the Minnesota state lawmakers who were murdered in their own home. This guy does not have a great record as a governor. It's fascinating what these people who support him actually. I don't think they believe in any of this. I just think they do it for their own political interests. I mean, how else do you explain it? So we will get to them because some of them are the ones I was talking about that had a delusional reaction to this. But at any rate, this guy's a failed governor, just like Gavin Newsom. And I guess when you have successful governors in our country, at the end of the day, because I believe in the law of polarity, you have to have failed governors at the same time. And I would say that's what Tim Walz is a failed governor. It's a guy who committed stolen valor, lied about his rank, particularly the rank that he retired from, which was not command sergeant major. He knew it. He still went into Congress. He campaigned on that title. He was introduced as that title, and never once did he ever correct him and say, hey, wait a minute, I did not retire as a command sergeant major. Okay, now for my veterans out there, you know why that is so troubling and why it's so frustrating to hear that. But anyways, I'll get off my soapbox and we'll get this story started. And usually we always lead with a summary, if you guys are new here, about the level of fraud out of the state of Minnesota. And usually the only people talking about it is always Fox News and Newsmax. You cannot really depend on CNN and MSDNC, of course.
Major fallout now over the Minnesota fraud scandal that keeps on growing. Nearly 100 mayors are voicing concerns about the state's fiscal policies, writing to the governor there, Tim Walz. Fraud, unchecked spending, and inconsistent fiscal management in St. Paul have trickled down to our cities. Our state owes it to our citizens to practice responsible fiscal management and to stop taxing our families, seniors, and businesses out of Minnesota. And now the federal government is getting involved here. House Oversight Committee, it's widening its probe, inviting state lawmakers to come testify and other federal departments to investigate. So let's bring in now Chairman James Coper. He leads the charge over at Oversight, and he joins us now. Good morning to you. Tell us about who you're bringing in, who you want to see on Capitol Hill, and what questions do you want to ask them?
Well, the most important people are the state whistleblowers, the state employees who put that tweet out that we all are familiar with a few weeks ago that alerted America to the massive fraud. These state employees also allege that they had warned both Governor Walz and Attorney General Ellison for years that this fraud was occurring, and yet nothing was taking place. So we're going to bring the state employees in. We're going to get their sworn testimony. We appreciate their bravery in coming forward. We're also going to bring in state lawmakers and Minnesota mayors because the walls are caving in on Tim Walz.
Exactly. It's definitely caving in on the governor. And here's the thing about it all. I'm more of a type of, I don't know if it's from the military, but I like to move with a sense of urgency. I like to be decisive, meaning this is the perfect time to move in and end him as we know it. And what I mean by that is end his political career. There should be no hesitation from the Department of Justice. They should be moving fierce. They should be aggressive. And they should finish this. And what I mean by that is we better have some convictions, okay? None of this whole, well, you know, we investigated and there was nothing there, because this is the overall problem currently with the Department of Justice. A lot of promises, a lot of rhetoric, zero results. And what I mean by that is the results around the political stuff, okay? The people who were in politics, who we all know, and I know it's speculation at best, committed crimes against the president, his family, his business associates, and the American people. I haven't seen one conviction, okay? And the only convictions, if there are some, are 2 Antifa members. We've seen that. Some individuals who did the Tesla firebombing. But that's minute according to what was promised. And that's just a reality for the Pam Bondi and the rest of them there. Maybe that's why Dan Bongino's leaving. Because I think if I was in his shoes, I might leave too. I'd be like, hey, I can't morally, I can't do that. I can't do this. That's who I am. I think that's why I got out of the military, at 13 years, because sooner or later you just reach a point where you're like, morally, I can't keep doing this. I'm no good. Okay, I'm not going to play this game. If you guys aren't really going to hold people accountable, you're going to have weak standards. You're going to start playing this race game. I'm out. Okay. And maybe that's what Dan Bongino is thinking. Okay. But I want to go back to my main point here, which is at the end of the day, they have to deliver results on this because it doesn't matter how many stories I bring to you. We're not going to get the satisfaction. We're not going to build any trust with our federal government, particularly the Department of Justice, if they don't deliver the results. That's just the bottom line to it. Now, I want you guys to hear a little bit more, and we're going to hear from James Comer later in the video. But this is a little bit more about they say it's 98 mayors at this point, but there's also some whistleblowers that are working at the Capitol who could also come out and speak against Tim Walz.
Now we're hearing from lots of mayors across the state of Minnesota finger pointing to leadership in St. Paul. What do you make of this letter and the call for more fiscal transparency?
Well, I think the most powerful thing in the letter really isn't the fraud. It's the fiscal mismanagement piece, that the mayors are complaining that they can't plan their house in order if the state representatives and the governor doesn't have their house in order or even a game plan. Listen, as a former prosecutor, you can fix fraud, right? You arrest people, you tighten up your system, you close that loophole, and whatever caused that fraud, you cut it off at its neck. And so going into the next fiscal year or two, then you don't have that fraud piece. And then you prosecute them and you send a strong message by putting them in jail for a long time. But the fiscal mismanagement, right, which is the broader concept and precept discussed in the letter, is most concerning. These are local mayors. They have to be reelected every 4 years. And so there's this political overlay to this letter, but it's also political cover, if you will, because if they're being hamstrung or if they're being handcuffed by what's going on at the state level, they don't want that to cause them not to be reelected. And then, of course, you want to serve your constituents and you want well-run cities, but it starts at the state level.
Yeah, we used to have a lesson in the military. You could tell the readiness of a unit by just looking at the top. I mean, it trickles down every single time. Culture always starts at the top. That's just what the bottom line is. And when you've got again, I know this firsthand because when you live in California, it's literally Minnesota. I think the only difference is it's on a larger scale. Okay, there was a fraud report that came out about California yesterday, and the numbers are just it dwarfs what's going on with Minnesota, unfortunately. But I mean, you got 44 million people technically who live in California. That's what the numbers say. It's probably more than that. But at any rate, what he was just saying there is so true, where you as a resident in your own neighborhood, you elected a mayor to do a job. The mayor can't do the job if the mayor's not getting the money that he's supposed to get or she is supposed to get. And they're not getting that money because the money's been going somewhere else. Now, this is nothing new. I mean, this is fraud 101, okay? Especially in politics. They raise money or they say, here's our budget, here's what we're going to do, here's where the money's going to go. But sometimes it doesn't end up there. If you guys could remember, if you go back January, when the Pacific Palisades fire broke out, and then people started looking at the budget of Los Angeles County, particularly the police department and the fire department and all of that, come to find out they were spending millions on LGBTQ nonsense and DEI. It's like, is this where the money should be going, or shouldn't the money be going to getting results? Listen, I guess I'm not naive. I get it. When you get into a position of power, most people don't even know how to handle that. Okay. And so most people, they're going to do the wrong thing, which is either look the other way or participate in it. Okay. That's usually what happens. All right. And you as the voter, you need to stand up. You have to speak out. Okay. You got to make sure your voice is heard. And is it going to solve your problem, tomorrow or tonight or next week or next month? Probably not. But I'd rather say something and speak out than say nothing at all. And I think that's been, I would probably argue, a weakness sometimes across the political spectrum, particularly on the right at times, especially as Christians. You know, sometimes we're too silent about things. And I'm not saying go to the streets and do what BLM did. But what I am saying is you should be showing up at your city council meetings. You should be showing up at your school boards. You should be showing up and being vocal, because this administration is the time to do it. You go back to the last administration, I can understand people's hesitation, right? Because they labeled parents extremists by voicing their opposition to what local leaders were doing. I get it. But today, no.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and pause that there now. I'm like 16 minutes, 18 minutes into this 1 hour video. I will share the rest of this video in my daily news wrap-up. But in the meantime, let me go ahead and click on the Rumble link and show you that this video does come from Devory Darkins. I am following his channel. I've given him a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. All right, let's jump back here and see what's next with Dr. Steve Turley. Congress takes first steps to remove Ilhan Omar as fraud scandal explodes. Okay, let's check this out.
About to see the single most odious member of Congress finally and officially expelled. Just hours ago, the push to remove Ilhan Omar from Congress officially began, all as federal investigators continue to uncover levels of corruption and fraud inside her Minnesota district unlike anything anyone has ever seen. But what if that corruption weren't limited to a single Democrat state? What if it's actually the business model of an entire political party? Today, we're going to connect the dots, and the results are terrifying Democrats everywhere. Hey, gang, it's me, Dr. Steve, your Patriot Professor. A very Merry Christmas to each and every one of you. Let me begin by asking you a question. Have you ever heard of the term fraud tourism? Right? Sounds like a joke, right? Federal prosecutors aren't laughing. Fraud tourism is the new term they're using to describe what's been happening for years inside Ilhan Omar's Minneapolis district. We're talking about people flying into Minnesota, literally commuting from places like Philadelphia, just to set up fake companies and rob the American taxpayer blind. Why? Because the word is out. In Ilhan Omar's Minnesota, the vault is wide open. Word spread literally across the country that you could come into Minnesota, set up a fake welfare association, collect literally millions of dollars over the course of just a few weeks, and then leave. Yesterday, we reported on the federal investigation that uncovered an astonishing 14 state-run Medicaid programs that they classified as riddled with fraud. Since 2018, these Minnesota-administered programs that receive federal funds, meaning they received our tax dollars, these programs paid out $18 billion of our tax monies to what are now being exposed as money laundering fronts. And those money laundering fronts walked away, I kid you not, with a staggering $9 billion. $9 billion out of a total of $18 billion paid out in these welfare programs. Federal investigators have discovered that $1 in every $2 of federal funding to Minnesota's welfare programs was stolen. Half of that money was stolen. I mean, this is absolutely insane. We've never seen anything like this. That's how it all started with defeating our future case, which involved approximately $300 million in blatant fraud. It had 78 defendants indicted so far. Over 90% of them are Somali descent. They claim to be feeding poor children by the tens of thousands through federal nutrition programs, but they were actually funding their own lavish lifestyles, purchasing luxury vehicles, real estate, and even funneling money overseas. But as it turns out, that was just the tip of the iceberg. 300 mil is peanuts to what federal investigators would later uncover. For example, the feds are cracking down on a new front: ultimate home health services and what's called the Housing Stabilization Program. Listen to this. The Housing Stabilization Program was originally projected to cost taxpayers around $2.6 million per year. By 2021, just a couple of years after it started, it hit $21 million. And then the following year, again, I kid you not, funding for the program exploded to $104 million. Now, keep in mind, this was a $2 million program, and in just months, it 100x'd, and virtually all of it was fraud. But this is just par for the course. There looks to be upwards of 24 different scams involving feeding programs, housing programs, autism programs, all frauds, all fake, all money laundering operations. And it was so successful that word got out. Right? Prosecutors say this program became a magnet for scammers all across the country, but especially all across the state. Prosecutors allege that defendants, many from the Somali community in Ilhan Omar's district, were billing the government for housing, food, and autism services that simply did not exist. They claim people were recruiting parents to get bogus autism diagnoses for their children just to get the kickbacks. And again, it was so easy that people from other states were flying in to get a piece of the action. That's the fraud tourism. And it happened on Governor Tim Walz's watch and the radical lunatic Attorney General Keith Ellison's watch. But what's so key here is that this fraud didn't happen in a vacuum. It happened in the very ecosystem Ilhan Omar herself helped build. You see, we have to realize that all of this goes back to what's called the Meals Act. The Meals Act was legislation introduced by Ilhan Omar that removed oversight mechanisms for federal child nutrition programs, basically making it more widely accessible, but also subsequently making it a vehicle for massive fraud in Minnesota's social services system, as we're learning more and more each and every single day. But true to form, we're now learning that the fraud appeared baked into the cake of the original congressional act, and that's because Ilhan, surprise, surprise, ended up getting kickbacks from the money. We now know that Omar's campaign received $5,400 from two individuals who were later implicated in the fraud investigation. And that's just what we know about. The $5,400 is just what we know about. So at least some of this money that she appropriated ended up funneling back right into her own campaign coffers. Again, just like we saw with USAID. As it turns out, all of this aid, all of this welfare, all of this financial assistance is turning out to be nothing but the means by which these left-wing politicians and bureaucrats enrich themselves, all the while hiding behind the veneer of compassion and humanitarianism. Now, of course, Omar is playing dumb. She does that very well. When she's not accusing her investigators of racism and Islamophobia, she's denying any involvement in this whatsoever. But here's the problem. You can't campaign with these people, which she did. You can't celebrate with them, which she did. You can't hire them, which she did. You can't sponsor the legislation that opens the spigot, which she did. You can't watch hundreds of millions pour into your own community, which she did, and end up financially benefiting from that opening up that spigot, which she did, and then pretend you know nothing about it. And that's why Republicans are finally taking the gloves off. Wait until you see what's happening in Congress. This is going to absolutely make your day. But if there is a lesson for all of us in this, it's that the radical left and the deep state will stop at nothing to hold on to and protect their own power over our nation's institutions. And one of the most effective ways that we can fight back against that every single day.
Okay, he's going into a commercial here. Let me go ahead and get past that. Block Trust IRA. So if you want to see that commercial, by all means,
Today,
click in the link
Republicans
box.
have officially begun the process of expelling Omar from Congress once and for all. For years, Republicans have merely complained about Omar's rhetoric, but now they are looking at her criminality. Representative Randy Fine from Florida is leading the charge. He's organizing a vote to finally and permanently remove Omar from Congress. And he's even using the D word, deportation. And we're not just talking about her bizarre wedding arrangement that's suspected to have committed immigration fraud with her own brother. We're talking about her connection to this financial fraud. So if you're tied to a criminal enterprise that's defrauding the United States government of hundreds of millions of dollars, you shouldn't just lose your committee seat. You should lose your right to be here in the first place. But unfortunately, what we're discovering in Minnesota isn't an anomaly. It's a preview. What we're seeing in Ilhan Omar's district is the feature, not the bug, of Democrat governance. I mean, look at California. During the pandemic, the state admitted it lost at least $20 billion in unemployment fraud. $20 billion. Some estimates say it could be as high as $135 billion. Organized crime rings in Russia and China were looting California's treasury because Gavin Newsom's administration was so incompetent they didn't bother to check IDs. Or look at Illinois. A state audit found $5.2 billion in improper unemployment payments, with nearly $2 billion confirmed as pure fraud. Or look at New York. They just prosecuted the largest Medicaid fraud scheme in their state's history. Transportation companies billing millions for rides that never happened. Do you see the pattern here? In every single deep blue state, the strategy is the same. Open the treasury. Remove the safeguards in the name of equity. Flood the zone with cash. And who gets that cash? Political allies, activist groups, nonprofits that mobilize voters. They aren't just wasting your money. They're using your tax dollars to fund their own political machine. Ilhan Omar's district just happens to be the most brazen example of a system literally designed to be looted by leftists. They call it social services. Everyone else calls it money laundering. Ilhan Omar needs to be audited. Her donors need to be audited. And frankly, the entire Democrat Party needs to be audited. And then maybe the expulsion of Ilhan Omar would mean the eventual end of the Democrat Party itself. So what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. And as always, make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button for breaking news and analysis you're not going to hear anywhere else.
There you have it, folks. I cannot disagree with him. Let me click on this Rumble link and show you this video does come from Dr. Steve Turley. I am following his channel. I've given him a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. Okay, we've heard a lot of great information here from Dr. Steve Turley and from, hang on here a second, I'm lost. There we go. Dr. Steve Turley and Bannons War Room and Devory Darkins, and Wendy Bell is going to kind of wrap this up. She's got a lot of this information. TDS is a bad color on everyone. Okay, let's take a listen. Right after her Pledge of Allegiance.
You know, as I listen to at the 30,000-foot perch where I like to sit and look down on all of the people responding to, reacting, we're trying to create news stories in some kind of a pathetic attempt to propagandize us. Remember, that is what the media are all about. And every day we see more proof of this. When I'm sitting up there looking down through the clouds and I see all of the picture, the puzzle pieces on the table start to take shape and we begin to see what's going on, I can't help but think, can you imagine how much better off we would be if anybody in Congress actually cared about America, if they cared about everyone, if they didn't just care about special interests or what they care about. And it's what we care about. It's what matters to we the people, this family, right? You know, if I was in Congress, I wouldn't go out and push legislation that was good for white people. You know, there are no white clubs. You can't join or start a white club because that's discriminatory, except every other part of the melting pot called America, every other ethnicity, color, background, belief, sexual ideology, what have you, can have their fringe, what nonsense, whatever it is, and then fight for that in Congress. Well, I don't understand that. I don't understand that. Why do we have Sarah McBride, whose real name is Tim? This is a congressperson from where? Delaware, Maine, New Hampshire? I forget. One of those small states that sometimes has big problems because it's run by Democrats. And here we have a transgender individual. And quite frankly, if this dude wants to dress up as a woman, wants to go all the way with what have you in transforming his identity into somebody he is not, why is the onus on me, say I was a member of Congress as well, to have to play along with the game and call him a she and say Congresswoman and all of this other such nonsense? It just slows us down. Now, you're an adult, Tim. You can do you. You can imagine how I feel about transgender children and the crazy stuff going on there. As Democrats, all but 4 blocked a House bill to put the kibosh on, I don't know, the body mutilation of children, because that makes sense. But why is it that everybody in Congress, who's not white, I'm going to say, has all these special interests? If you're black, it's all about slavery. We can never evolve from the civil rights era. We've got to keep beating the drum of racism, disenfranchisement. We can't possibly look to the future and say, my goodness, have we come a long way. We demand reparations, though none of us have been slaves. Nobody here has owned a slave. And a whole lot of this talk comes from states where slavery was never even a thing, right? If you're somebody who is an indigenous person, you fight for indigenous rights. You know what? What rights do people who are indigenous, what rights do they not have that everybody else has? And by the way, if we're going to talk about fraud, waste, and abuse, has anybody thought about maybe digging into the $20 billion we've given the 9.5 million indigenous people in this country since 2020? Do you know how much money that is? Where did that go? All of these people doing great because they should be. $20 billion in 5 years? Well, if you're gay and you're a member of Congress, you've got to fight for all things alphabet soup. I'm on the LGBTQ bandwagon. Let's change the flag. Let's go here. Let's go there. Woo, gay rights. Everybody who's an American has the same rights as everybody else, whether you're gay or black, indigenous, Asian, handicapped, or white. Why can't we just put all of that nonsense aside and realize that we have a president and an administration that's doing everything they can for the benefit of all? Because if one industry does well, you know what happens in that industry? The people in it make more money. And what do? They go out and they spend. And then lo and behold, the local store has more money. And what do? They hire more people working, more people making money. What do? They go and they spend their money. This is not complicated. I am a mom first. I am no mathematician, but I handle my family's finances. And what we're seeing in this country now is unequivocally the rebound of what could have been the end of the United States of America as we know it. If 2024 hadn't gone down the way it did, if more of you hadn't shown up than the cheat that they had in store, if the people who showed up at the Capitol at January 6, 2021 had not done that, do you think we would have any clue about how much we've been swindled from, stolen, thieved, lied to, how many elections have been flipped, how many things have been done in the shadows that you and I pay for? We have a president who says, you know what? I have an idea. Here's how it works. You first, not all these people from other countries, not other leaders. You decide. Parents, you decide what's best for your children. States, you decide whether your people are down with abortion or not. You figure it out. You go out and make as much money as you can. We will stay out of your way. We'll whittle down the regulations. We'll pare off all of the ridiculous restrictions. How about we pare down a couple taxes here and there as well? Because have you seen the ripple effect of abject corruption, political nonsense, and a Trump derangement syndrome that's manifested itself in sanctuary cities and states to the nth degree? You find yourself in Minnesota as one of 98 mayors in towns much smaller than Minneapolis that you've probably never heard from. And you know what they're feeling right now? That they have no money. They have to raise taxes. They don't have enough police officers. There's not enough security. There aren't enough social services. And the very people who are supposed to get the help because of our money still are waiting, as people who shouldn't have even been here have sponged it from them. Look, this is not complicated. And you don't even have to go up as 35,000 feet to see it. Eggs are coming down. Gas is coming down. A feeling of relief is settling back into the country. Money is rolling in. Tariffs are going to work. And lo and behold, other countries now putting tariffs on one another. Who would have thunk? And every economist from the New York Times to Newsweek and Politico who flapped their wings and had their unnies in a twist about Donald Trump and his plans that he let you know about back in 2015 before he ran the first time are all eating crow. But you know what you never hear? You never hear, I was wrong. I didn't see this coming. Trump's policies make sense. He's chosen the right people to take care of things as he manages his role as the CEO of the USA. Now, if all of these congressmen and women with their fringe ideologies and their identities that aren't first and foremost made in America or America proud, if they could just put in a box and tuck away on a shelf for the slightest bit of time their objectives in derangement and let the man and his cabinet do their job. Lo and behold, what do you think would happen? Well, I could tell you Democrats wouldn't win again. It would be more cheating than ever, but hell, we'd have lots to talk about, right? When we come back on the Wendy Bell Radio program, all right, let's talk about this. Supreme Court dealing Trump a major blow yesterday. Can't send troops, National Guard, into Chicago. Was it a blow or even maybe a blessing? Depends on how you look at it. Look through my eyes next on the Wendy Bell Radio Network.
Okay, we'll check that out. And I don't know. It may very well be a blessing.
Heels. Welcome back to the Wendy Bell Radio program. Okay, so let's just review where we are and what I think the Trump derangement. Look, I'm not a big fan of that, but it really is, in a snazzy acronym, totally accurate. Like the idea of Donald Trump to people evokes a visceral and preposterous reaction. And it's founded in an ill education, if you will, and a complete brainwashing because of media propaganda. What do you get from the media all day long? All the bad stuff, not the good stuff, right? Well, let me give you the good stuff. Do you guys see gold and silver prices are soaring? Did you see that the GDP is up a monster 4.3% in the third quarter? So more Americans, that means, are keeping more of their money. Inflation has gone down to 2.7%. It's a cataclysmic drop from Joe Biden's high of 9.1. I mean, think about what they did to us. The money for the cartels is getting cut off. The Border is closed. The kids who've been trafficked and abused are starting to be found. Criminal aliens are getting deported. Liberals are losing their ever-loving minds. And you have to ask yourself, everything I just said to you is a bonus to every single one of us. But because it's under Donald Trump's purview, it's bad. He literally forces people to choose all of the wrong heroes. They put their eggs in the basket of the criminal illegal aliens. They put their eggs in the baskets of abortion and transgender health nonsense and ridiculous spending and drugs and terrorists. It's beyond. It's deranged. It must be a syndrome. Sure feels like it. So the Supreme Court yesterday dealt President Trump a pretty big blow, right? And I'm going to read you the couple paragraphs from CNN. Like to dance around the headlines? Remember, go to locals.com and put in Wendy Bell Radio, and you get access to all 3 hours of this show, all of the rundown, every soundbite, every article, all of it. This is the headline from CNN. All right, it's a big story. In major loss for Trump, Supreme Court blocks National Guard deployment to Chicago. Now, why does President Trump want to go to Chicago? Kash Patel told us there are 110,000 gang members, many of them criminal illegal aliens who were welcomed across during the Biden administration. These people put everyday citizens, the American people, who through no fault of their own happen to live in Chicago, in the crosshairs. Like, kids deserve to be able to play outside. You shouldn't be worried about your child riding their bike down the street. And yet it's not safe in Chicago. There have been 390 homicides there so far this year. And by the way, I counted 12 so far in December, including 4 teenagers. This president is basic. He's like, it's out of control. There is no law and order. It is not safe. That is unacceptable. As the CEO of the USA, I want my deputies to go in there and clean it freaking up. No, says J.B. Pritzker. No, says Brandon What's-His-Face, right? We can't have that. Why? Must be pretty lucrative. They must be getting something out of it. And the biggest losers are Chicago. The folks there who just want to be able to live safely. So the Trump administration says, okay, that's unfortunate. Good luck, Chicago. We'll watch you go down the drains like pick your favorite city in California. Okay? We're going to redirect. We'll go to Red Happy, Louisiana. We're going to hit New Orleans, where, by the way, the mayor there, DEI, piece of work, indicted LaToya Cantrell, right? Isn't she indicted? I believe she faced major federal indictment this August over corruption tied to an alleged affair with her bodyguard. It's like Fonnie Willis all over again. She went on lavish trips. Where'd you get the money, LaToya? Well, don't ask that. That makes you racist. She's a black chick. You can't do that. Misogynist, racist pig. Anybody else out there tired of the cycle? Because I'm tired of it. You know who's tired of it? Chicago is tired of it. The people who keep it alive, who allow the gangs and the cartels and the trafficking and the nonsense to continue, can't afford for it to end. What do we know now? Scott Bessent's cutting off the head of the snake. He's traveling along the border. He's finding the financial institutions that have allowed the payments to happen. Cartels, drugs, people, children. Thank you very much. So disgusting and despicable. And yet the demon, the people around whom there is derangement, is the one man who wants to clean it up, President Trump. The people who want it to continue forever are the dirtbags who want you to believe that Trump hates people from other countries. He's discriminatory. He's an oligarch. He's a king. He's a monster. He's a Nazi. He's a fascist. Isn't it so disgusting? Don't you think everybody in this country, regardless of what you look like, regardless of your zip code, deserves basic stuff? Safety, law, protection, fair taxes, a responsible government, the ability to raise their children the way they want, to worship how and when they want, to speak up and vote and have that vote be counted and not stolen by people who've been imported by a deranged Democrat Party that knows nobody is signing up to be on their side of the aisle anymore. Pretty basic, right? Not hard to see. So maybe is it a loss for Donald Trump not being able to go into Chicago with the National Guard? It's a loss for Chicago. President Trump will redirect his energies elsewhere, and we will clean up other places, and what you will have will be a divided country, not based on politics, based on bad governance. When we come back on the Wendy Bell radio program, with just 1 week left in 2025, I'm going to say 2026 actually is looking merry and bright. I mean, is this the golden age? Hear from the people who said, this is just the appetizer. Taste it, because we've got more coming. Next on the Wendy Bell Radio Network.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and pause that here and click on the Rumble link. And as I said, I will continue this video in my daily news wrap-up coming up about 9:30. But clicking on the Rumble link shows you that this video does come from Wendy Bell Radio. I am following the channel. I've given her a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. And let me remind you, folks, that these videos that I share with you here from Devory Darkins, Bannons War Room, Dr. Steve Turley, and Wendy Bell come directly from their channel. I have the links to their videos and also the links to their channels here in the description box. I don't get any commissions or royalties for sharing this information out, but I do get the satisfaction of putting it together and sharing it out with you. And as some of the chats, some of the comments that I shared with you today, people seem to appreciate that. I hope you appreciate it as well. I hope you give me a thumbs up. I hope you follow my channel if you haven't done so already. And I hope you share this information out with your friends, contacts, and family members so they too can know of a place to come to get the truth. And these videos that I've shared with you are videos that I've posted on Murtech.com. Right here's the video from, right here's the video from Bannons War Room. Here's the video from Dr. Steve Turley, the video from Devory Darkins, and the video from Wendy Bell. I have over 55 no-nonsense, common sense, logic, and truth videos here at Murtech.com. This is your one-stop shop for information that you're not going to get on the mainstream media. Now, I'd like to share all of it with you, but unfortunately, I just don't have the time to do that. And that's why I have put together my daily news wrap-up playlist. I have the video from Wendy Bell that we just watched, and we're going to finish up with. I have some information from the Y-Files. The man who saw Christ still walks among us. Immortal count of Saint Gehrman revisited. Okay. The Devory Darkins video. I'm going to finish up with that. Then we're going to get into some X-22 report. Okay. And from Truth Bomb Mary. Peter and Dennis on Fauci and all-cause mortality. It's kind of a good picture there of the doctor, don't you think? On the fringe, McWater's effect. More Dr. Steve Turley, Black Conservative Perspective. Got a great lineup here for you tonight, folks, in my daily news wrap-up. So please, join me. But with that being said, I do want to thank you for the time that you have spent with me this evening. I do hope that you will come back and see me later. And I do hope you all have a Merry Christmas, okay? Now, I will do my daily news wrap-up tonight and tomorrow. During the day, I normally drop extras, okay? But tomorrow, Christmas Day, we'll spend it with the family. I will have my daily news update tomorrow night, but I probably will be playing Christmas music throughout the day. Okay, so if you tune in, you want to hear some good Christmas music, this is the place to come. So with that being said, again, hopefully I'll get to see you again later. Thank you for watching, and may God bless.